Not only is she a writer and avid reader like myself, but my guest today has also been an entomologist, a candle maker, a florist, and a teacher. Her beautiful book, Tokyo Ever After, is a Reese Witherspoon and Hello Sunshine YA book club pick and has quite accurately been described as Crazy Rich Asians meets The Princess Diaries. Emiko Jean, welcome to The Middle.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay, so congratulations on all of your books, but tell me a little bit about Tokyo Ever After without giving too much away.
Sure. So Tokyo Ever After is all about a Japanese American teen, Azumi Tanaka, and she's grown up in a mostly white, very small Northern California town with her mom. And Azumi has always wondered about her father and where she comes from. And with the help of a very plucky, tech-savvy best friend, she discovers her previously unknown father's identity, and he is the crown prince of Japan, which means that Azumi is literally a princess. Soon enough, she finds herself on a plane to Japan to meet her father and explore the country she's always dreamed of. But of course, it's not as easy as it all sounds. There's complications along the way. The main one being that Izumi still struggles with feeling as if she is caught between two worlds, the United States and Japan, both of which she doesn't really feel a part of.
So let's talk more about that, because I think that that is something that I hear a lot. And I saw in an interview that some of this was inspired by your own feelings growing up and also a lack of representation. So tell me a little bit more about why this was important for you to include in the story.
Yeah, so growing up, it's in an interview way back, I was asked, like, when was the first time you saw a Japanese American person in a book or media, television, anything? And I had to really think about it. And I hadn't ever until I was probably 16 or 17. And that lack of representation in literature was really profound for me. And I think it's why I didn't pursue writing for a very long time, because I didn't see myself in the books that I love so much. I didn't see Japanese American authors. And so it kind of closed a pathway for me. After I had twins 3 years ago, I had a daughter, and I started to think about the books that she was going to read. And I thought about, fairy tales and all that kind of stuff, and how there weren't really, Japanese princesses. And I wanted to create that for her, and also a little bit for my younger self too, so that she wouldn't have the same experiences that I did.
And do you remember what book it was when you were 16? That was the first one?
So I'd have to, don't quote me on the dates on because I'd have to look it up. But it was when Disney put out Mulan, was the first time that I saw like an Asian like heroine for the first time. And I remember being like incredibly moved by that. Just to see, someone with dark hair and eyes like mine on the screen, even though it was, animation, it was pretty moving.
No, and the book is that you put out is absolutely beautiful. It's so entertaining to read. How has life changed since it became a Reese's book club pick?
In so many ways. I think, it's always a dream as an author to have your book reach as many people as you can, and that's really what being selected for the book club has done, is that it's reached such a wide audience. I wasn't sure. There's always some doubt, like at the beginning of publishing a book and everything. I was like, are readers going to relate to this journey of this character? Am I the only one that feels that way? And I've gotten such a big response from Asian Americans, even people outside of Asian Americans, saying that they relate to Azumi and her not feeling like she belongs anywhere. And I think that's all due to, being part of the book club.
What has been like the most profound reaction that you've gotten from a reader, or has there been any reaction that you've just been like, obviously you feeling this yourself, but to hear it from other people and to know that you're touching so many people, what has that been like?
It's amazing. The best notes I get are from teenage girls who say, teenage Asian American girls who say, I live in a town like Azumi lives in. I feel like I don't belong. and they've really connected to her and her journey. And, and since the journey is inspired by myself and my journey, it feels like they've connected to me. And so it's really amazing. I mean, I get emotional, thinking about it, and it's been incredible.
And there's a book too that's coming out, correct?
Yes.
Do you have a date?
I don't have a date yet. I think it's end of May.
Okay.
Yeah. So around the same time as Tokyo Ever After came out this year.
Yeah. Okay. And now I have to ask, because anytime Reese gets her hand on something, there's talks of adaptations, and this would be so lovely to see on the screen. So are there any talks yet? And if so, what can you tell me?
There are talks. The book has been optioned.
Okay.
But I can't say much more than that. But yeah, there's things that are in the works for it.
Okay. So say it does, everything gets, goes down the right path and we're going to the screen. Would you have anything, or if you can, would you have something to do with the screenwriting or casting or anything like that? Or would you just prefer to hand it off?
That's a good question. And actually it's one I've been kind of asking myself lately, not only about like this book, but other books that I'm working on too, as if I want to have like more hand in the adaptations of them. But I think, I think I'm done. I'm the writer. I wrote the book, and then I think I kind of get the sense that once I finished it, it doesn't really belong to me anymore. And so I'm kind of ready to hand it off and move on to the next thing, the next project.
Is there anyone in Hollywood that you kind of could see as Izzy? Like, or do you picture your characters as you're writing them as real people? Or are they completely fictional? Like, are their faces fictional in your mind?
Their faces are completely fictional. And I think that's really purposeful, because I like for the reader to be able to imagine themselves in the book. So I don't like to project too much, onto it, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, it's so interesting. Okay. So you've had so many different professions. Tell me about your journey from entomology, which explain what that is, to where you are now.
So entomology, I would probably be an entomologist if I wasn't a writer, and that's the study of bugs. I'm really into insects and like creepy crawlies and all that kind of stuff.
That's my nightmare. How does one get into that?
I was really interested in environmental science when I went to school, and I kind of fell into this like trapdoor of like insects being like the canaries in the coal mine for environmental change, and that's why I got very interested in them. So that's where that kind of came from. But yeah, so I did that for a while, and I think I listed on my biography, like I tried candle making, and I was a florist at one time. I was a teacher. And I think, I jumped around so much because I really hadn't found what I wanted to do and what I was happy doing. And I've been writing now for 6 years. And so that's what has stuck. And it's pretty much the love of my life, aside from my kids and family and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think I was just trying to find, where I belonged.
And was writing always a hobby, or was it just something that you were like, I'm going to try this because I love to read and see what happens?
Yeah, so I did write all through high school, and it was a hobby. I just never really like kind of gave myself the permission to seriously pursue it until I was working at a job that I was really unhappy at. Mm-hmm. And I remember working at this job, and I'd be in the office, and I would pretend to be writing emails, but I was really writing chapters of a book, like the body of the email.
Yes.
And so I was like, after I had written this one book, which ended up being my debut, I decided I was going to like seriously pursue it. So.
And then I have to know about the Twilight fan fiction. You said, I read on your website that still must live somewhere on the internet. How did you get into that? And yeah, just tell me about it.
Yeah. So I loved Twilight when it came out. I am not embarrassed to say it. I loved it. And yeah, so I wrote Twilight fan fiction. It does still exist. I will never tell anyone my username for it. But yeah, it was during kind of that height of like,
Yes.
YA, like paranormal,
Mhm.
like phase. And so yeah, I wrote fan fiction.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I literally was laughing out loud when I read your bios on your website that I'm assuming you wrote. So have you or would you ever consider comedy writing either in the form of a novel or for television?
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't. That's an interesting. I haven't been asked that before. I haven't. But I am finding more and more humor in my books. So Tokyo Ever After has a lot of humor. Tokyo Dreaming has more humor, and my next book, which is a women's fiction novel, has quite a bit of humor in it too.
Is that Mika in real life?
It is, yeah.
Tell me about that. I saw your post that when does that come out? And this is your first in that category, correct?
Yeah, correct. So that comes out, I believe, in August next year. So we don't have a set date, but I think that's what the publisher is thinking. Yeah, so Mika in Real Life is my debut women's fiction novel. And I should qualify, it does have humor in it, but it's much different in tone than Tokyo Ever After. Okay. It still explores Japanese American identity, but it has some heavier themes with trauma and adoption. And it's all about a woman, a Japanese American woman who reconnects with her daughter that she placed for adoption 17 years ago.
Well, I can't wait to read it and everything else that you put out. Thank you for everything that you are doing for not only the Asian American community, but just for readers in general. And I can't wait to see Tokyo Ever After on the screen. I know it's going to happen, so please keep me posted on that as well.
We will. Thank you for having me today.
Of course. Thank you.